Hey, welcome back to Wednesday, January 13th, day 8 of January's Number Corner. We only have very few things to do today, one of which is going over the workbook page that you completed yesterday, and then, of course, updating our calendar collector. So we're actually going to update our calendar collector first. That way, when we talk about today's calendar marker, then we can go straight into reviewing our workbook page involving calendar markers, so we can go over the answers to that, okay? So since it is day 8, we now have 24 quarters because every day I'm collecting 3 quarters. So 8 times 3 is 24 quarters. And each time I'm collecting 3 quarters, it's 3/4 of a dollar. So I'm essentially adding 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. I'm adding 3/4 8 times, or I could say 8 times 3/4, which is going to give me 24 fourths. So how much money is that? What is 24 divided by 4? Yeah, it's 6. 24 divided by 4 is 6 because we know 4 times 6 is 24. So if there are 6 holes, that means we have 6 whole dollars. Okay, that's how much money we've collected so far, and we still have some more days to go to figure out how much money we've collected this month. And was it better to have chosen the $10 up front or to wait to collect 3 quarters a day? Now let's look at our calendar marker for today, the 13th, which is what is that? Yeah. You may have seen me tilt my head kind of like this because to me that looks like a square. It's just tilted. So if you called it a diamond or something else, we're going to say that this is a square. And so we know by looking at the square, we can figure out what the area of it is because we have half and a half, half and a half. So we have 4 halves, a half plus a half plus a half plus a half, or 4 times 1/2, which is going to give us 4 halves, which is 2 wholes. So I'm going to add that for today's date, which is the 13th. So we have a square, and we have 2 square units because 4 halves, which is 4 halves, which is equal to 2 wholes. All right, open up your number corner books so that we can go over your answers from the questions that you did yesterday. And it looked something kind of like this, where they gave you 10 different markers. You were supposed to put the shape name and the area in square units. Then you were supposed to list some mathematical observations about that pattern so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to post the answers to this workbook page. So once I post it, I'm going to let it stay up for a few seconds, but you would want to pause the video to make sure that you have all the answers correctly. And I may just very quickly call them out, and you'll have to keep up with me, but you may still want to pause the video so that you can see if you got them correct or incorrect and make corrections as necessary. So, are you ready? You have your book open? Get it open. Here we go. All right, so here are the answers. The first day, we had a rectangle, and if you paid attention during Number Corner, maybe you remembered because I didn't have it posted while you were working on it. And that was half of a square unit. And then we had another rectangle, and it was 2 full square units. And we talked about having similar shapes, so these shapes are similar. Then we have a right triangle. And I was very specific when I posted it, and I did put an isosceles because we have 2 sides that have the exact same side length, and that makes it isosceles. If 2 sides have the same length, it is an isosceles triangle. It's a right triangle because 90 degrees does fit here. We can fit a square right here in the corner. Number 5 and 6 are parallelograms. We have parallelograms. So check out the areas. First one had an area of 1 with a half plus a half. And the second one had an area of 4. 1 whole, and then a half plus a half is a whole, and a half plus another half is a whole. And I'm going to pause right there just to give you a chance to catch up. Right, so are you caught up? Right, next we have our scalene triangles. This one had an area of 1, so we had like 3/4 plus a fourth kind of. And then this one has an area of 4. So we went from 1 to 4. Scalene means that all sides have a different side length. That's what scalene means, okay? So if you just put right triangle, that's absolutely okay. Now that we're going over it, you may want to just write on the side of it scalene for these. And if you didn't already put isosceles up here, go ahead and do that so that you can learn the difference between those two vocabulary terms, right? The last two were trapezoids. So we had a half, a half, a half. So 3 halves, which is 1 1/2. And then this one had an area of 6. So pause this video so that you can capture, like save this screen so you can go over it just in case you were not keeping up with me if I was talking too quickly, because I'm going to move on. Okay? All right. The last thing that you were supposed to do was list some observations about the pattern that you have seen so far. So if you haven't done that, I would really like for you to do that. I'm not going to really give you the answers per se. Maybe I'll give you one, and that may hopefully spark some interest and challenge you to think deeper, okay? When you're thinking about, well, I'll give you 2. One of them is something I've been saying every day. Our shapes are similar. And that's one thing that I've even written in our observation on the side of our observation chart, where one's smaller, the first one's small, and the second one's bigger, okay? You may also remember me saying at the beginning of the month something about how not only is it bigger, but the ratio stays the same. So if one side increases by 2, the other side has to increase by 2 as well. So for example, I took 1 and I multiplied it by 2. So if I multiplied by 2 for this side, I have to multiply for 2 on this side. So we had 2, now we have 4. Do you see what I mean? So one thing is that the shapes are similar. First one's smaller and the second one's bigger. The other thing I want you to think about is the relationship between the numbers. Let's look at the parallelogram. What's the relationship between 1 and 4? Right, it's times 4. So maybe the pattern is that all of them are increasing by 4, like 4 times the first shape. So check that out and see if that's correct. So that kind of gives you a hint for 2 observations that you could have made. If you haven't made the other observations, go ahead and do so and make sure you record them so that you're recording your thinking and to show your teacher that you are completing the work that you are responsible for, right? You guys have a great day. That's the end of our video, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.